Hey guys! Welcome to Season 4, Episode 3 of For the Generation podcast. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if you're new, welcome to our podcast.
We're your hosts, Natalia Velasco
And Alexa Gomez.
Today, we're going to interview Sabrina Rae Gonzales for the first episode of our mini-series on Unconventional Majors.
Sabrina Rae Gonzales is a first-year animation major at Loyola Marymount University. Currently at LMU, she is in the First to Go program.
Sabrina actually drew our logo that you're seeing on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you're listening, so big shout out to her.
Hi guys.
Hi Sabrina, is there anything you want to add?
I don't know what else to say.
But
But
that's okay.
Thank you for joining on First to Go's podcast, and I'm so excited to be here.
Yay!
Thank you for being here, Sabrina.
Yeah, thank you.
So, to start off, how did you decide on your major?
So I kind of always knew I wanted to be in a career where I was drawing, which is like something I feel I'm very lucky to have known at such a young age, because I feel like the majority of people don't really know how they're going to dedicate their lives to a career and still be passionate about it. So I've always known or hoped I was going to be in a creative career or major. So it wasn't really that big of a revelation when I decided, like, oh, I'm going to do animation, because I've always kind of knew. I've been drawing since a very young age.
How old were you when you started, like,
pretty
taking
much
it seriously?
Oh, seriously?
Or I guess, I don't know.
Because I kind of just, like, fell into it. There's nothing really, like, this is the moment, you know?
Yeah.
It's, like, ever since I knew how to, like, hold a pencil, I've been drawing.
Do you still draw, like, for fun?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when you can't not draw for fun. You know,
Yeah.
whenever you're drawing, it has to be for fun. Otherwise, then you don't really like drawing.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Were there any problems convincing your parents about your choice of major?
Not really. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself more than my parents did, because I come from a family of, like, doctors and nurses. You know, my dad's a dentist. All my aunts and uncles are within the medical field.
Yeah.
And so for them to be like, oh no, it's okay if you want to be an artist, it's like super weird. You know, it kind of always feels like they're saying that to comfort you, but when you're, like, surrounded by that kind of family, you kind of feel that kind of pressure to be something else.
So Sabrina, what are some of your favorite things that you've gotten to work on?
So this semester I'm taking a figure drawing class, which is figure drawing, so people.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the semester, I was not aware that we were going to be drawing nude people.
Oh.
So every week we have, I'm not sure if it's like a volunteer. I'm pretty sure they get paid.
Yeah.
But it's someone comes in, and then while we're all getting ready, they get undressed, like, behind a privacy screen. And then they stand in the middle of class for, like, long durations, like 30 minutes at most, because everyone's drawing. So, you know, we've had nude models, and it's been very interesting to just get comfortable like that.
Yeah.
Because the majority of my class, my section, are girls, and for the most part we've had female nude models, but the few times that we've had male models, it's kind of like a little bit awkward and shocking. Like, it's not, this is what I've learned, it's only sexual if you make it sexual,
right?
And I feel like when you're an artist drawing, you don't really take into account, like, this is a person. It's more like, oh, this is just something I'm drawing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it has been interesting how, you know, this is what a body looks like. Because I've only ever seen, like, my body.
Yeah.
You know?
I have a question. Do you just, like, draw people, or, like, is it, you know, like, those little brown characters? What are they called? Those ones in art class.
Oh, like the
like, do you, like, have to use those, or is it just, like, straight up people?
It's just straight up people. They're not very representative either. They're very, like, stiff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look like that orange robot. You know what I'm talking
From
about?
Star Wars?
No. From that like
Educational
show thing. I don't know.
I have no
idea
what you're talking about.
I can't think of what it's called. It's like a guy with his robot, and the robot is orange.
Oh!
You know what I'm talking about?
It's like He has like a human friend, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and his name's like Tim or something
Tim
like
and
that.
Moby.
Yeah, Tim and Moby.
Yeah,
That's
it looks like
I
it.
That's what it
freaking
looks like.
love those.
I think there's like a movie or something where those figures like come to life and it's super scary, but I don't remember what it was in. Maybe it was a dream of mine or something, but I'm pretty sure it was a movie.
What are art trends that you absolutely despise that the general public has fallen for?
So, this is like a trend that peaked when we were all like in middle school. So like 2012, 14, around that time.
Yeah.
Am I doing my math right?
Yes.
I think that's around the time it peaked.
Yeah,
for
okay. So if this is so hard to describe, but it's like when people traced over like real photos and then it was just like color blocks.
Like,
Like
they
their
didn't put the
face wouldn't
face.
even have faces. It was just like a blob of like skin tone.
Yes.
It was just like outlines and then just filled in and it was like flat color. And it's like that's so easy to do, right?
Yeah.
And I understand like, oh, that was your hustle. If you were like doing commissions and people were paying it for you, like good for you, you know? Like
Yeah.
easy hustle, you know?
Yeah.
But like there is no, this is like so mean to say, but this is just how I feel. There's not really effort to it.
Because you
You're
just kind of
just tracing,
trace, right?
yeah. And cause I'm just like very like salty about it because at that at
I
the
know
same
exactly what
time
you're gonna say.
that trend was taking off, I was also like trying to start like, oh, I'm doing art, like pay me, I can do art, right? And that was getting more attention than, obviously I'm like middle school age, so my art wasn't that good,
Right.
but I was still a little bit salty where it's like, oh, my art actually has personality and this is just blobs of color that people
just an
trace on.
outline.
Yeah.
So that was definitely one I was not very
Into.
into when it peaked. I can't think of ones that are very
current?
Yeah.
What are you inspired by at the moment?
Currently, nothing very, that I've watched recently. Oh, no, actually, Turning Red is a very good movie.
Yeah.
We just watched Turning Red.
We did.
And we all watched it in one room, and I sat in the back, like I was behind everyone, and low-key I started crying towards the end.
Oh, Sabrina!
So it was a very good movie.
Don't say spoilers.
It was a very good movie, and now I get TikToks all about it, and I've seen like some YouTube videos where it's like, like angry white men are like, it's not a good movie. It's
I've
boring.
seen that.
It's like, well, it's not for you.
Yeah.
Like pay attention.
True.
Is there maybe like any artists that inspire your work?
So I have a couple of artists that I follow on my Instagram. I have an art Instagram, and a couple of people I follow influence my work a lot, and some of them are Gabriel Piccolo, who is _Piccolo on Instagram. He has published a couple of like Teen Titan comics.
Ooh.
And his style is very like, I feel like when it comes to Teen Titans and just young like fictional heroes, the way that they make them more appealing is like they take into aspect like these are still kids instead of just like they're only heroes. And I feel like that's why people like Spider-Man so much, because he's still
Like young.
and they take account into like he's still at high school and he's balancing like this hero and teenager life. And Piccolo, he illustrates that where it's like, oh yeah, they are heroes, but they're also still kids. So there's like a couple of posts on his Instagram where it's like they have they're like in casual attire that hints at like their superhero suits, and they're like doing casual stuff, like they're going to the supermarket together, they're like watching a movie together.
That's so cool.
There's one where they're like at a motel pool and they're all just like, they're still kids, you know? So I kind of like that aspect. And then Miyazaki has always been an influence on my life. I feel like if I had to pinpoint a moment where it's like I'm going into animation, it's when I watched Spirited Away for the first time. So Spirited Away was like one of the first animated movies to like be awarded or nominated an Oscar. And I remember when I first watched it, it wasn't even like at my own home. Like I was in like a Tokyo store, and it was playing on one of the TVs, and I literally stood there for like the entire hour just in the store, just watching it like up on the TV. And then another Instagrammer I follow on Instagram. I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'll just spell it. At CYARINE on Instagram. Laura Browers. She has a very like unique watercolor style, but she does it digitally, so that's what's like very interesting about her work.
That's really cool. If you had to name your specific style, what would you name it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. Like, that's kind of asking.
To like categorize.
Like, Alexa is a photographer, or her hobby is like photography. Like, would you name your style? That's like the really difficult question, right?
It is.
And I feel like you have to make it as
What
an
if
artist before
we
you name
describe-
something
what
after
if-
you.
We'd like tell the listeners.
Like, is there like a descriptive word that you think resonates with your work, like an adjective?
Not really.
No.
I feel like if I had to explain it to someone, it's more cartoony than it is realistic.
That makes sense.
Is there like anyone specifically or like any company would want to be hired by, like animation wise?
When I was younger, I feel like any aspiring animator, a young aspiring animator would always name like Disney, Pixar, right? But you know, realistically, it takes a lot of work to get into that, and there are like smaller animation companies you can get into and still be successful. Like, it doesn't always have to be like, oh, I've heard of this company, so I have to be in it. Right? There are always going to be like smaller companies that are going to appreciate you more than a bigger company can.
Yeah.
So right now I'm not sure, but definitely when I was younger it was Disney.
Yeah. Do you think college has changed your perspective on your younger formative years?
I feel like when I first got accepted into LMU, I was not expecting to get accepted as an animation major. Although it was like my first choice, so I was always like, okay, be prepared to apply as something else. But definitely I still think I was very lucky to be accepted into LMU, because creative majors anywhere are very competitive.
Especially in LA.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
especially in
for sure.
LA. But I definitely would have told my younger self, be prepared better. Like, actually create a portfolio. I created my art portfolio like within the month I was applying for.
Oh my gosh.
So
Sabrina.
yeah, it was a combination of like stuff I've done before and then a couple newer works just to like fill in the gaps, you know, because they asked for a variety of things like environmental pieces and body studies, all that kind of stuff. And I definitely over my adolescence was only focusing on like people and faces and not really like environments and animals and other types of like works. And I feel like my portfolio lacked a lot, and that's why I was worried like I'm not really
get in
competitive
You're
for this
now.
major.
You're here now.
But I am here now, and that's what's
Yeah.
really like amazing
Yeah.
to me, that I get to practice something that I'm so passionate about.
Yeah.
You know?
Super cool.
But if I were to tell my younger self, like, if I felt like I wasn't confident enough, I'm like, you need to expand your horizons. You need to, like, you can't just be a jack of all trades, basically. Like,
Yeah.
eventually you're going to master one thing, but when you're younger, you need to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah. Do you have any passion projects you want to do in the future?
I always said in my essays how I always felt like, although there were like a few pieces that were very diverse and representative of like the cultures I feel like weren't represented enough, I definitely want to like add to that. There is like this Pixar Disney short called Float, I think, and it represented like a Filipino dad and his son. And I thought like, oh, we're gonna like look into the culture, but it wasn't, to me when I watched it, it wasn't really engaging, because they focused a lot like, oh, it's a Filipino American film, but it didn't really feel
like a Filipino film.
like films like Coco
Yeah.
are very like, well, I can't speak for all like Hispanics,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's very like satisfying, like being seen and having your culture be represented in such like a big project.
Yeah.
And then even Turning Red was very like representative in like Chinese culture. But I have yet to see like Filipino American. There is a Netflix series called Trece. It comes from the comic,
Oh,
like
okay,
directly
okay.
directly from the comic. So
like readapted.
yeah,
from
it's
the
an
comic.
adaptation of the
Yes.
comic. It's an adaptation of a comic that was made by a Filipino artist.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, like, not a lot of people know about that
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. What are some caveats that come with studying a more creative major?
I can't really complain about anything, really. I mean, how are you graded on stuff also?
I
Because
see.
we're not really assigned a lot formally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have, like, oh, this is a midterm you need to be working on throughout the entire semester kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or so far, you know, we're only in our second semester
Yeah.
of our college. But I can't really say anything.
What do your assignments look like?
Well, currently, I'm working on, for my figure drawing class, we don't really have any assignments for a figure drawing class. It's just like, if you come in, like, whenever you're supposed to come in. If you're
Doing the work.
Yeah, if you're in class, when you're supposed to be in class, you're not really behind.
I see.
Yeah, you just have to be drawing when we have class.
Oh.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then I am in an animation 210, which is visual story development.
Mm-hmm.
So we do storyboards. We have to draft a story, pitch it to the class. So that's also like oral presentations.
Okay. Yeah.
Oral presentations, we have to pitch to the class. We have to take criticisms. We have to revise our storyboards. And storyboards are really long.
Yeah.
You know, like, imagine if it's one drawing per page. A PDF might be like 50 pages long.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's really long.
You had that one vampire one that I really liked.
Yes, I was not prepared for that pitch at all. He was like, okay, guys, we're pitching today, so be prepared. And I had nothing prepared. Like, everyone else had drawings to present while they were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know that we were doing that. So I didn't have any drawings. And I didn't even have a story. So
Do
I
you
made
wanna-
it up on the
Do
spot.
you want to give the listeners
Yeah, it
a
was
quick
a
summary?
super cute story.
So our first storyboard had to be inspired by us. It had to be about us in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And my story was, I was trying to go for like the generational trauma kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So my story is about a family of vampires, a father vampire, a little girl, and the mother. And the little vampire girl wants to see the sun,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's like her dream. But you know, vampires can't see the sun or else they die.
Yeah.
Or that's what she believes.
Right.
Right? So how generational trauma comes into this is like, oh, just because you've been told something over and over again doesn't make it true. So
Mhm.
they've been like, her family have instilled this fear in her
Mm-hmm.
because they think they've been doing it out of her protection, but it's done like more harm than good at this point, right?
I see.
So she's been wanting to see the sun, and her father keeps taking her away from the window, like,
Mhm.
no, that's dangerous. And she finally realizes, like, for some reason, it's not important to the story, but she touches the sun, the sun doesn't kill her. And then for the rest of the story, she's been trying to like convince her family, like, no, the sun isn't bad.
Uh-huh.
So that's my story in a shell nut.
A nutshell.
In a nutshell. In a shell nut.
Yeah, it was super cute, guys.
We'll see it in theaters one day.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. It was so cute. Does your major ever feel like too militant or restricting, like creatively?
Not really so far, which I'm really glad it is. There was like this controversy that came out of Cal Arts, which is one of the biggest like animation schools. Like the
Mhm.
majority of Disney animators graduate from Cal
wow.
Arts. And there was like this controversy where Cal Art was being criticized because people felt like they were training their students
Mhm.
to be animators rather than teaching them.
I see.
And so there's something called like the Cal Art style, which is like,
Ah.
you know how like Cartoon Network shows have like this certain style where it's like, imagine, you know, Amazing World of Gumball, right?
I've heard of it, yes.
Or like Steven Universe.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like this very defining feature on their face where it's like this one curve for the face where the eyes are next to the eyes, and then like this huge bump where their cheek is, and that's just like the general face shape that they have for every single character. Like there's even a gif where they're like melting all the characters' faces together, and it's very evident like it's just one face shape.
Uh-huh.
It's not very diverse is what they're saying.
Uh,
And I was always afraid of that, where like my professors were going to be like very adamant on a specific style. But
Mhm.
so far I haven't had any like complaints,
oh,
or we
okay.
haven't been very critical of like styles yet. Like, it's still very early to tell. I've only been in like 4 animation classes so far. So that's something I was afraid of, but I haven't experienced so far. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
I know we kind of already talked about like the grading system, but does it ever like get in your head like during your creative process or like when you're doing your work?
Not really. I've kind of this sounds like really cocky. I was always very critical of myself, or I am like learning not to be as critical on myself. Like, if I was always constantly like, this isn't good enough, I would never turn anything in. The first to go program coordinator, but also our mentor, Lexi Pineda, I told her like, oh, I'm really like suffering with procrastination. Like, it's like frozen me sometimes. And that's also like being a perfectionist. So I've been trying to learn, like, if I'm always so critical about myself, I'm never going to do anything. And I've also talked about, there's this one like picture that I've seen. It's like a cake analogy. So as an artist, like, if you're constantly comparing yourself to other artists, you're never going to be satisfied with yourself. So let's say you bring a cake to a party and you put your cake down, and the cake already on the table is like so much better than yours in your eyes. And you're like, oh, their cake is so much better than mine. And you walk away from the table, some random person is going to come up to that table and they're going to look at both cakes and be like, oh my God, 2 cakes. They're not going to care which one is better.
That's true.
You know, they're going to be satisfied with 2 cakes no matter what the 2 cakes look like.
That's true.
You know? So in your eyes, maybe it's not going to be good, but like, you're critical of yourself because you're thinking of what other people are going to be thinking about.
Yeah.
So just don't think about other people, you know?
That's really good advice. How do you want to be remembered, Sabrina?
Last semester, when I was in my history of animation class, we saw a lot of student works that were really good. And I definitely want to be one of those student works when I'm a senior that they show to the freshman classes and they're inspired. So that's my goal, just to make my final to be something that they show to like
the freshman
future classes and be like, this is what LMU has made. Like, this is an LMU student.
I like that.
Sabrina.
Alexa.
Do you feel like living in a gated community changed you? Impacted your life?
So for those who don't know, I grew up in a gated community. I'm not gonna tell you my address. But I definitely think being in a gated community has changed me in that not a lot of kids grew up where I lived.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I wanted to like connect with other youth, I would have to like go out. But also my parents never let me out like myself, you know, where it's like, oh, when I was, your parents are always like, oh, you're always in the house, like you never go out. When I was younger, you know, we'd always like go out on our bikes and we'd be home before sundown, like, and we were free to do whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, I don't do anything because you don't let me do anything. But even when I was allowed to go out, the same problem occurred where like all my friends that I made in school lived like too far from me, where it's like, if we wanted to hang out, we always had to plan something like, oh, we're picking up this person because we were all like too far from each other. There's also like this one stereotype where it's like, oh, the gated communities have the best Halloweens because they're all rich.
Really?
And they give out full candy bars. You know, like in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where like,
go
we're
to the
going up
rich
to
community.
this neighborhood because they give out full bars, right?
Have you guys ever
Hell no. We did not have good Halloweens because there were no kids to have that kind of incentive.
Have you guys ever got a big candy bar from Halloween?
Yeah.
Me too.
Do you have any plans for the summer? Like, are you gonna work on animation stuff or?
It's funny you mention that because I met with my mentor this past weekend. So I have a mentor. She's kind of the reason I got into LMU. So my mentorship is funding my tuition here at LMU. And I met with her. She works at Sony, and she's like, have you thought about what you want to do over the summer? Because when I started my mentorship, is the same year that COVID started. So I started my mentorship January of 2020. And then March is when COVID happened. So I only had 2 months, like, in-person visits with her. And I never got to, like, tour the lot. I didn't meet a lot of people. And so now that COVID's kind of, well, starting to be over, hopefully, we're planning on having me shadow at Sony over the summer.
That's exciting.
That is super cool.
And possibly intern in like future years. So she said like definitely like junior year, because she said, oh, it's very like involving, so I need to like be free the entire summer basically. Right. And because we're planning so late, it's definitely not this year, but in future years I definitely hope to be interning at Sony.
That is super cool. How do you feel about gas prices right now?
Gas prices got me effed up. I did not choose this car. This car is handed down to me, and I'm very lucky to even have a car. But my car takes premium gas, okay? So it's always been expensive. And now with current prices, my dad just texted my brother and I. We both have premium gas cars for some reason. He goes, don't put premium gas in your car anymore. Put regular. And you know, if you have any general understanding of like why premium gas cars need premium gas, if you put regular gas in a premium gas car, it like messes up like the firing engines or something like that. So I don't know why he texted me that. He's very like fluent in car speak.
Hi, Sabrina's dad.
The gas prices are that bad that my dad is willing to ruin premium gas engines.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Right?
If you were a Squishmallow, what would you be?
I think my spirit animal I've always resonated the most with like goats.
That would be so cute.
So like a goat Squishmallow.
That's so cute. Would you want it like different colors or just like a
traditional
traditional
goat? No,
goat
just like traditional colored goat.
That is so cute. I really like that. What Squishmallow would you be?
Is there a butterfly Squishmallow? I really like butterflies.
There is a butterfly one and it's so cute. Look at it. I don't know what I would be. Maybe a dog one, but like a colorful dog one. I don't know. I have to think about that one.
I kind of want to make a YouTube video about this where it's like, oh, here are the things I was obsessed with over COVID.
Oh, yeah.
It started off really weird. There's this one channel that does Mousetrap Mondays, and it's where they buy like different mouse traps every week. Because they lived like on a barn or something, so they always had like mice going around. Currently, I'm on a Shark Tank obsession.
That's okay. How'd you get into that one?
It just showed up on my YouTube because Sony uploads full clips, so it's not like you're on the cliffhanger every single time. So it's very satisfying to watch the entire thing over. You know? Do you guys have any COVID obsessions you guys went through?
Ooh, COVID obsessions. I watched Gossip Girl for the first time during COVID, and I rewatched it probably like 5 times through quarantine. And it's a super long series. And do you have COVID obsession?
At the beginning of the pandemic, my sister and I were doing a lot of like cooking and baking, like recipes on TikTok. Like we learned how to make a pizza, avocado rolls from like cheesecake, pupusas, a bunch of different things. It's not, I don't know, it's not really an obsession, but I don't know, I guess.
Like a hobby?
Yeah. That's how I would put it.
Is there any last words you want to say for our audience?
Anything you want to plug, social media?
My art account on Instagram is Locomango, LOKO Mango. Follow me there. Thank you so much for listening. It was so fun being here.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 3 of season 4 of the For the Generation podcast.
We will see you guys soon.
Don't forget to follow all of our socials for the Gen on Twitter, Instagram,
TikTok,
Anchor, you know, all of the platforms. And yeah, we will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye. You're burnt. Woo!